Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Go Places Do Things. My name's Joey.
I'm Cheryl.
We're a pair of 50 somethings who like to go places and do things, and we thought it'd be fun to share some of those experiences with you guys. And if you like them, maybe you'll share some of your experiences with us as well. What are we talking about today, Cheryl?
We are talking about one of a day trip we did here in Central Texas.
A day trip. We just took a day. It wasn't a week-long trip to somewhere exotic or
It
exciting.
was it was a day. It was a day when Joey and I met. We used to take little day trips quite often. Our courtship was full of little adventures that we would take at various places in Central Texas. This was a new adventure for both of us.
Yeah,
We went towards out towards Fredericksburg.
yeah. We
To
live in the Austin area, so if you're familiar with the Austin area and you know where Fredericksburg is, you know that that is southwest of us.
yeah.
So we took kind of a fun little road, 1431, which is nice and windy. It drives through Texas hill country, and which Cheryl doesn't love because she gets a little car sick sometimes. We talked about that on the last episode.
But I drove this time, so I didn't get carsick.
So that was our solution to that debacle, that situation.
So the thing about spring break in Texas, you don't know what you're going to get. Some days you're going to get 90-degree weather. Some days you're going to get 35-degree weather. And so we had literally had earlier in the week, we'd had several 80 plus degree days. It had been a very nice spring break. And so we got up and we packed our little bag, our little day bag, and decided that we should probably wear shorts,
Yeah.
although it was cold out. It was like 38 degrees that morning.
But the forecast was saying it was going to be what, 70, 72?
Yeah, but we were there early in the morning. So
Where were we? Where were we early in the morning? Where did we go when we went to Fredericksburg?
okay, so we didn't go quite all the way to Fredericksburg, headed towards that way. We didn't quite get to Fredericksburg. We went to a place called the Preserve.
The Preserve.
Yes, I learned about the
Do they
Preserve.
make jams?
No, they
Oh,
do not make syrup. It is an elephant preserve.
oh, wow, an elephant preserve.
So I guess a couple of years ago, I was on Facebook scrolling and saw one of my friends with elephants, and I like couldn't tell where it was from her pictures. I picked up the phone and I called her. I'm like, "Where are you? Where were you last week that you posted these pictures?" And she's like, "It was right here. It's not far away, a little more than an hour, hour and a half away." And ever since I found out about that, I've been wanting to go do this experience because she and her daughter had a really great experience. And so I thought, man, I would love to get up close and personal with some elephants. We had Joey worked on a PR campaign
Yeah.
several years ago, probably a decade ago now, that we had learned some things about elephants and about some of the dangers to elephant populations.
Yeah, there's a particular virus that's killing them in the wild. It's killing baby elephants, not only in the wild, but also in zoos. About
Mhm.
1 in 4 baby elephants die before growing to full maturity because of this virus. And it's pretty severe considering the fact that elephants are being poached and hunted for their tusks and other things. So they're really pretty endangered. Mostly African elephants are are most endangered, but Indian elephants populations are dwindling
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah, so anyhow, that had kind of led to an interest in elephants. And then when Madison, again, over a decade ago, she and I had gone to the zoo one time on our own to the Houston Zoo, and they had three babies at the zoo then. And we had gone early enough where they were all out playing, and it was such a great experience that ever since that time, I've wanted to have a more close-up experience with elephants.
Yeah.
And so we got to go visit Kitty and Rosie and Becky at the preserve.
Yeah, the preserve. We didn't know really what to expect other than the pictures that your friend had. I'd done a little research on it before setting off, but not too much. I like to be prepared. I don't like to be surprised. I want to have my expectations set realistically when we go places. So we checked it out and it seemed like a good thing to do. So we actually took our daughter Madison with us. And she was on her spring break, which If you're 17 and you're on spring break, usually you don't want to go on a day trip with mom and dad. You want to go sleep until noon and then maybe hang out with your friends,
Yeah.
watch a movie, take another nap, and then,
Yeah. And she had 4 other days to do that on spring break. But we told her we wanted to do this. We generally take a trip on spring break, but we actually took a cruise the week before
yeah,
without her. And so we kind of felt like we needed to do something special. And I knew that she would love this experience. Now, she didn't get super excited about
beforehand.
beforehand. She
No.
wasn't very excited, but
She was reserved. She wasn't
yes.
nasty or like some kids can be. She wasn't trying to weasel her way out of it, but she was very reserved going
Yeah.
into it. She just kind of,
She was doing it to go along and please us.
yeah, really
Yeah.
we had just said, hey, give us a day. We just want to have a day trip. And, as much fun as we had doing
Yeah.
that in our courtship, you know, doing it as a family. It's fun too, but
Yeah.
it's not as much fun for her, I think, as it is for us.
It's a good thing to do as a family, I think. I think doing things together as a family is important. And it's harder as your kids get older. They want to go out and do their own thing. And I recall that. I remember feeling that way about doing these with my parents as well. So we want to still take advantage of those times. And so doing a day trip really worked out well. And so the plan was to drive over. We left at around 9 o'clock, a little after 9, and we got there a little before 11, which was our appointment time.
Yeah. When we drove in, the first thing that struck me was just how immaculate and clean the place was. They even have a dirt parking lot that had been smoothed over like a baseball diamond in between innings, They had gone out and actually made that parking lot look pristine. As cars drove in, you could see the tracks from the cars pr previous to us driving in and parking. And it was
Mhm.
really nice to see. And everywhere you looked, the place was very well kept.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave me this really good sense of I'm in the right place. I'm in a place that not only cares about its environment, but they have more than just elephants. So I felt like they were caring about if they cared about the animals as much as they did about, the setting, then these animals were in a good place. And so were we.
Yeah, and you could see the barn where the animals were kept. You could also see the structure they've created, not a structure, the landscape they had done for some of the other African animals that
Yeah, they
they
had
have.
zebras.
And a few,
Giraffes. I saw giraffes.
yeah,
I know people had mentioned turtles online when I did my research, like tortoises, but
I didn't see that, but we did not. So you could pay for a separate experience to have encounters with the giraffes and some of the other animals as well. Madison and I had done a giraffe encounter at the San Antonio Zoo about 5 years ago. So we did the giraffe thing before. She still remembers that.
yeah,
And so we just really wanted to have the fun time with the elephants. And so when you go on to the website, you purchase your tickets. It's not cheap. Tickets are about $125 a piece, and the experience lasts an hour and a half. And you think, "Ooh, that's a little steep." Well, elephants eat a lot.
yeah. They each eat about 200 pounds of food a day each, and there's three of them that we met.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap to take care of these elephants, and they are well taken care of.
Yeah,
And these are not elephants that these people went out in the wild and captured. These are elephants that have been retired from the circus here in the United States. I believe these particular three elephants were originally performing in circuses in California, but they were rescued. I don't remember exactly what the timeline was, but at some point here in the States using elephants in circuses became frowned upon. Well, those elephants had to go somewhere. They can't be released back into the wild.
yeah,
Um, Zoos don't have necessarily places or a desire to have all of these elephants. So places like the preserve, I really appreciate families like this stepping up and they really have a passion for it. You can tell in the things that are around. And they're doing the best they can to take care of these big girls.
yeah. Before we got introduced to the elephants, one of the things I also noticed that really struck me was like a zoo, there was lots of signage that was informational, fact-driven, data-rich signs that were all around explaining little factoids about elephants and the different animals there. And so that was a nice little touch
Hmm.
because they essentially corralled all the humans into like a pergola or some
Hmm.
kind of, you know,
A covered area with tables and seating
and
area.
then they marched the elephants down single file from their enclosure.
Hmm.
It was kind of cute actually. They were tail to trunk and holding each, the one behind was holding the tail of the one in front of them with their trunk, and they made a little elephant train as they came down, and as they slowly walked down toward the crowd of people, there was probably what, 50,
Hmm.
60 humans
Yeah.
there
Hmm.
to
Oh, at
witness the
least, yeah.
elephants. As the elephants came down, the people who ran the experience were providing information, talking about what they knew, what we should know about the elephants' names, like this just kind of it was a very well organized and
Yeah.
orchestrated production.
And that's when they talked about, the behaviors that we were going to see throughout the day. And so all of the quote unquote tricks that the elephants do are actually behaviors that they're taught that are necessary. When you have a 2-ton animal, you've got to have the cooperation from the animal to care for it.
Yeah.
You got to be able to
Hmm.
have it lift its own leg. It's not like when you clean a horse's hoof, you can get that horse and you can, kind of shove your arm. I've done this before in the past, many, many moons ago, shoved my shoulder into the side of the horse and made the horse pick up its hoof so I could clean its hoof. There's no picking up that elephant's
There's no
foot.
picking that up. You,
You've got to have the cooperation. And so some of the quote unquote tricks that they do have them do are specifically behaviors that assist them in caring for the health of the elephant.
yeah, and that was a large part of the overall experience. We got to see how they're cleaned. We got to see how their feet were cared for. We got to see how they stretched
And
and
exercised.
exercised on a daily basis. And one of the takeaways was, you know, they don't do this all day long. This isn't an 8-hour job for the elephants. They do this maybe twice a day and not even every day, where they have these experiences scheduled because they're just and what's they got to do this with the elephants anyway. Like the trainers, if you work with large animals, you have to go and you have to work out these animals. If you have a large dog, you probably should walk it or run it. You should, take care of it. And part of taking care of it is making sure it's active so that you can extend its life. And that's what they're doing with these elephants. They're giving them an opportunity. And sure, they're gonna profit from a little bit of that. But I
Yeah.
don't think the elephants ever had a problem with any of it.
So I'll tell you one thing I asked so they have a veterinarian on staff. They probably have more than one, but there was one that was talking with us and engaging with us. And I asked her, I said, how do you know if they're happy? And she smiled and she said, well, when you're talking about wild animals, it's not really happy or unhappy. It's do they feel safe and secure or do they feel like they're at risk? Are they fearful? And she goes, you can tell if they feel safe or if they feel at risk by their body language, because it's very clear when they're afraid, when they're nervous. They have very clear signs. And you can also tell when they're very relaxed. And all of these animals did seem very relaxed. Um, they have very soulful eyes.
They do.
And it was even funny because they would say something and like every now and then it was like the trainer would make a comment and it was like that elephant was like, yeah, whatever. Kind of looking at it and kind of like the elephant, was just like, the eye kind of eye roll that he gave
Yeah.
the trainer, or in an affectionate way, kind of like your dog, when you're talking to your dog and your dog looks at you and kind of gives you a little attitude or something. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I felt like all of the animals felt comfortable with the trainers. They probably had. So we saw 3 different elephants, and the trainers that we had interaction with that we saw, there was at least 6 or 7.
Oh yeah, maybe even 8 or 10. There were a lot.
Yeah.
Because they would split the elephants up, and so there was always a trainer with an elephant, and there was whenever the humans were around, there were several trainers around, making sure we were all staying where we needed to be safe, but also making sure the elephants were getting what they needed as well.
Hmm.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what we saw throughout the process. Um, One of the things I read online was, that you get to you sit down at a picnic table and they tell some bad jokes, and then they you watch the elephant for 10 seconds, and then they let you pose for a picture, and it kind of sounded like a very like a cheesy, not well put together, not well thought through kind of scenario, but I felt like the whole process was very well planned, very well written. I didn't feel like the jokes were cheesy. Now I'm a cheesy dad who tells cheesy dad jokes. Maybe that appeals to me and it didn't appeal to this other reviewer, but I thought that the people doing their job liked the job they did. It
Mhm.
wasn't like they were reading off a script because
Mhm.
that was in the job description and they had to do it. They were doing it because they have to do that every day. That's like part of
Yeah.
the routine. They do it all the time, but it didn't feel rehearsed. It felt very organic.
Yeah.
The crowd laughed.
Yeah.
The
And
elephants definitely seemed relaxed.
there were ages there from, I saw a few toddlers there,
Hmm.
all the way through to some older couples who probably looked like they were in their 70s.
Yeah.
And so I felt like the presentation was really, really well done. It was also very educational. Like there
Yes.
were a lot of quote unquote elephant facts that we learned
Yeah.
that I didn't know about elephants before.
When I did that PR job for that elephant, medical research project, I'd learned so much about elephants. And I thought I already knew a lot because I used to regularly visit them at the San Diego Zoo growing
Mhm.
up. I loved elephants my whole life. I used to ride on them at the zoo. That was like one of my favorite treats to get to do.
You can't ride on these.
No, you can't ride on these,
Mhm.
but that was, in the 70s and 80s, that was the fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But for an extra $5. But I yeah, I don't.
I learned so I want you want to hear what the most unique thing I learned?
Yes.
Okay. So African elephants and Asian elephants are more closely related to Asian are related to the woolly mammoth,
Hmm.
and the African elephants are related to the mastodons
They're more related to
than they
those.
are to each other.
Yeah.
In fact, they're two different species. They cannot be bred together.
Yeah.
And I did not know that. I just felt like, okay, well, you just never had an interaction or you don't have any half African, half Asian elephants because they were never close enough for that to happen naturally. But they're two different species. So that was something that was a completely new fact and memorable because it's been several weeks since we've been on that day trip, and I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. That was the most interesting one for me as well. And I was surprised I'd never learned that before.
Yeah, you think we would have heard that before? We're in our 50s. You would have heard that at some point
Well,
in
it
our
makes
lives.
sense, right? African elephants are dwindling away into non-existence.
Hmm.
Well, why don't you just breed them with Asian elephants and solve the problem?
Yeah, no,
Turns out you can't.
can't do that.
Yeah, genetically speaking, that's not an option.
Yeah. So what was your, well, let's summarize what we did for the encounter.
Yeah, so we went and sat down at the pergola, and like you said, it was really cool that morning. And so they had heaters, so we kind of stood by the heaters. The folks running the show, I don't even know what you call them, but the
The
trainers,
Rangers or
yeah, they kind of gave an informational introduction, explaining what we can expect, describing who the elephants were and why they were there, and their ages. These were
they're
30,
they
40-year-old elephants.
these are middle-aged to elder
Elephants,
elephants.
yeah. And so and they had lived on the preserve. The youngest one that they had lived there for 30 years. So it wasn't like these elephants just showed up overnight, 5 or 10 years ago because there wasn't anywhere else to put them. These people have been caring for these elephants for a very long time.
Mhm.
And so then they explained to us that there's going to be opportunities to they're going to take and show us kind of the routine. Like the elephants did some stretches. They had some fun jokes in there, downward facing elephant, kind of
Mhm.
playing on the whole yoga theme. These are Asian elephants after all. And then, then they took one of them over to stand behind kind of a reef so we could pose for pictures, while another, excuse me, while another went over to kind of a paddock area where it laid down, and I get the feeling that they kind of rotate them through. They didn't say this
Mhm.
outright, but I get the feeling that they have the elephants kind of rotate so that they can get them all clean. What they do is they lay them down. And I get that the trainers are going to clean them well, but they give every single person there a chance to grab a scrub brush and a soapy bucket and start scrubbing the elephants. And before we get up to the elephant, we hand them our phone and turn on the camera app, and they take a ton of pictures. They probably took 30 pictures of us washing the elephant.
Yeah. So it's they have to bathe these elephants every few days anyway. So this does get some of that job done. So they are letting the participants like us help them
Yeah.
with it. And basically we were just washing, not to, it was from the ears to the tail, that
Yeah.
area. The trainers take care of the head and the ears and the
Yeah, the important parts.
yeah.
It was more a
Well,
photo op opportunity, but what was great is how unique it was. You could just stand there. We got a lot of opportunities to stand next to the elephant and take a picture, but to be able to have the elephant laid down next to you and to be able to put your hand on its side, on its back, on a place that you never would have been able to really put an elephant unless you climbed on top of it to go
yeah.
for a ride.
And one thing I really enjoyed doing was I put my hand just to see, just to feel her breathe.
Yeah.
And so slow, 12 breaths per minute. Because I asked, because I was like, is she breathing? Is she moving? And they breathe really, really slow. And it was just a neat, it was neat. It was neat doing that. And then after everybody had kind of come in there, and they're really stiff brushes
Yeah.
because they're hairier than you
Yeah,
might
that was
think.
surprising how hairy every bit of them was hairy.
Yeah, and also, just like, some dogs like a good scrubbing, they seem to enjoy it. They seem to enjoy the scrubbing. They did
Yeah.
not seem tense or bothered by it at all. And then they ended up, after we all went through, the elephant stood back up and they got a little shower, got rinsed off,
Hmm.
and they seemed to like that as well.
Yeah.
And so as you're doing that, they were also we also got to have a picture opportunity with one of the other elephants, and we were the first one of the first ones to do that because they grabbed us from the back of the other line and said, "Why don't y'all go ahead and come over here and
Yeah, they
talk?"
split us up.
Yeah, and so
Get us through quicker.
we
Yeah.
met Becky, who is the middle-aged elephant. She's 41,
Hmm.
and she is she was super sweet, and they're like, you can hug her trunk, she's fine with that. And you were able to kind of pet between her eyes and rub it, and I was like, there's hair everywhere on her. I was really surprised, and very, very interesting just being that close to that large of an animal.
Yeah. What was interesting is usually when you have somebody take your picture, if you're at the seashore and you're on the pier and you want somebody to take your picture and you find a stranger, they snap one picture and maybe you're licking your lips or blinking your eyes or something. But here, you hand your phone to the trainer, and even the trainers know, like, they
To get a good picture, take a bunch of
they
pictures.
took a bunch. They took several pictures of each one of us individually. They took a picture of me and Cheryl with Becky. They took a picture of all three of us with Becky, several,
Hmm.
and they would turn the camera and there would be horizontal and vertical shots. That was really, I mean, as a photographer, that was a really nice treat for me because
Yeah.
then I feel like I'm gonna walk away with something I can use, as opposed to just the one that they took, and I gotta live with it no
Hmm.
matter what.
And while we were doing that, they had the two elephants over there. They were working with that other elephant where there wasn't anyone around. They were taking that elephant through some paces and doing some things that they probably do every day with that
Always
elephant.
keeping them active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after we had bathed the elephant had been rinsed off. We'd had our photo op with Becky. Then we wandered back over to the other. Oh no, we didn't go. That's right. We actually, before that, they brought two of the elephants over
Yep.
and gave us an opportunity to show us how they trim their hooves.
Yeah, they kind of gave us a tutorial on foot care for
Yeah.
elephants, which was actually really fascinating.
So if you've ever had a horse, they have their hooves have to be trimmed because they, like your fingernails, grow and continue to grow. And so they have to be trimmed down. And out in the wild, they're running along more abrasive surfaces, they're much more active, and so they are naturally trimmed down. Kind of like think about your dogs. If your dog is outside running every day, or it's gonna their claws are naturally going to be filed down. So they needed to be filed down, and then they needed to care for the cuticles. And so they kind of gave us a lesson about how they do that while they were showing you how they did it. And then we had an opportunity to feel the nails.
Yeah.
They had they got they propped their foot up where they were working on
Yeah,
it,
they like lifted it up on a little
stool,
footstool.
and laid it there, and that's how they work on it. And then we each had the opportunity to feel the bottom of the elephant's foot
Yeah.
and to feel the nails, both of one that had just had her nails trimmed
Hmm.
and one that was in the process of needing her nails trimmed, and it was time for her to have nails trimmed
Did you
again.
ever feel rushed through
No,
any of it?
I did not feel rushed through any of it.
Me neither.
I felt like if I wanted to take another 15 or 30 seconds, that would have been fine.
Yeah, I never once felt like we had to giddy up to the next thing. I got an opportunity to touch the bottom of an elephant's foot. Like that's never happened before in my life, and it'll probably never happen again.
Yeah.
It was pretty special. So,
Yeah, it's interesting how graceful these animals are.
hmm.
They're so large,
Hmm.
but they're so graceful when they're walking up to where you are, you don't hear them.
Mm-mm.
They're just,
Silent.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
And
amazing.
just like cats, their back foot steps into the same footprint as their front
Mhm.
foot. We saw them actually stand on 2 feet several times. They would do little acrobatic little things throughout, and they would just kind of like maybe bow or pose or something. I saw one point, one was standing on a front left paw or foot and a back right, and just sticking the other legs out, just balancing there. They're very
Yeah.
graceful.
Well, and that was one of the things they were doing. That was one of the behaviors that they did where they kind of put their leg out
Yeah.
and they held it up like in a yoga. They were making fun of it like it was a yoga pose, but they were like, yeah, we call this the pose. And then they explained to us what we do is when we want them to do this, the vet can look in these places that you can't see unless they hold their leg up like that.
Yeah.
And so while these are tricks that they have taught, this behavior that they have learned, it's not just to put on a show for humans, it is to help provide their care.
Yeah, elephant calisthenics. And it's also good for the vet to be able to do what they need to do. And training the elephant to help do that with you is,
Yeah.
it's if you can do it, why not? We do it with dogs and cats all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. After we did the foot experience, which I loved, we went back over to the pergola with the heaters and they went through several demonstrations of things that they could do with the elephants. One of them put a paintbrush in its trunk and
Let it paint.
painted on a shirt, I think, that they're probably going to sell in the gift shop. And
Hmm.
they had one kick a soccer ball that a guest actually got to go up and
Hmm.
toss to the elephant. And the elephant walked up and they explained how the elephant's not actually looking at the soccer ball with its eyes. It's using its memory to remember where the ball is as it's coming at it from the last time it saw it, so it knows where to place its foot in order to kick it away. We watched that elephant kick a soccer ball a couple of
Yeah.
times.
And it uses the hearing. It uses all of its other senses as well.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting,
Yeah, one of the funniest things they did was they had the elephants play harmonicas, which I thought was pretty great.
which they seem to like.
Yeah,
Like one elephant didn't really kind of want to give that harmonica up at the end.
yeah. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like they were playing a song, but they would put it in their trunk and blow in and out and make noise, and it was really funny. And so
Yeah,
they get,
yeah.
yeah. They played catch. They threw batons at the elephants, and they would catch them in their with their trunks, and then it was showing the
Oh,
dexterity that they had in their trunk, the ability to grab. Do you remember how many muscles they said an elephant has in its trunk?
over 100,000,
Yeah,
which is amazing.
between 100 and 200,000
And
muscles in its trunk.
and they did provide some food for them while we were
Yeah, they
there.
got a snack.
They did get a snack. And what was really interesting is that part of the snack was a bunch of bananas, like
Like a
a
bunch
bunch.
that you buy at the
They were still
store.
connected together. And one of the elephants separated each individual banana and ate it individually. And then the other one did that a couple and then ate the rest of the bunch at one. One of them ate like all of them individually and peeled part of the last one, which we just thought was so funny because I mean, she did it. She like used her trunk to do what she wanted to do, and it was very interesting on how they ate. And that's just a small amount of what they eat. And that's what we were talking about. That was probably 10 pounds of fruit and vegetables that they ate, but they're going to eat, 15 to 20 times that throughout the rest of the day. That's a lot of food.
Yeah, a lot of food. You know, you would think based off of the reviews that I read on this place that they wouldn't want you to video or photograph what's going on based on what people said about how awful it was. But I could have had my camera on and rolling the entire time on video, and they would have been perfectly fine with it. In fact, I got lots of video of everything
Mhm.
that happened, and the crew even took pictures of us at every single stop.
Well, and just to be clear, it's not all one-star reviews on there. They've got a lot of great
A lot of
reviews.
five-star reviews.
But Joey likes to go and see what people complain about.
Well,
And then he
anytime
can
I go
see if there
anywhere,
if there if
yeah.
there's any truth to it,
So just a
or
little
if it's just a
travel.
one-off.
This is one of my favorite travel hacks that I love to tell people, and that is if you're going somewhere new, go read the one star reviews. But keep this in mind. Those are the people who didn't do any planning. Those are the people who went with high expectations, higher than the reality, or didn't have any expectations, but went with some kind of baggage and somehow went home and wrote this awful review based on not really having done their homework to start out with. And so you're going to
Mhm.
learn a lot from that, just as much as you would from reading the five-star reviews.
I agree with that. I do that for products even. I look at the one-star reviews and see what people are saying, and then I look at the good reviews and see what people are saying and try to adjust my expectations. Um, I think I had reasonable expectations from what I had looked at. I didn't go read all the one-star reviews. I read a few reviews. I did read a few one-star a long time ago, but I couldn't have told you what any of them said. Other than
Probably something about a circus act or something.
I don't remember, except that I find that people will often have wrong expectations. And sometimes it's better. I think you like reading all the reviews. I don't always read reviews when I'm going on an experience. I look at, like, overall, what is this? What are people thinking about this, right? Whatever, if it's a restaurant or if it's an experience that we're doing, what overall is it getting? Is it 4 stars and above? Most
Sure.
people like it. If most people like it, then I'm generally going to lower my expectations of what to expect and just let them lay it out for me. And I like to look and see what are they presenting and how are they doing it. And one thing that's always important to me is what the service they're providing or what they're doing, is it being done with excellence? And that's what I look for. I look for is what is being done, no matter what it is it being done with excellence? Are these people passionate about what they're doing in such a way that it's causing them to put forth their best effort to do the best at what they're doing?
Yeah.
And here I felt that way. I felt that the people who own this preserve have constructed a really wonderful home, a really beautiful home for these elephants and these other animals. Even though we didn't interact with them, they had a beautiful home as well. And you can tell when someone doesn't care about their job.
Mm. Hmm.
And I didn't get that from one of those people. They
Mm-mm.
they were happy to be there. They were excited to be working with these elephants. They weren't phoning it in.
No.
They were engaged.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of the experience where they lined all three elephants up and everybody got to go get their group picture.
Another picture. We'd already taken pictures with
Well,
them.
we'd taken single pictures with elephants, but this was an opportunity to put all three of them side by side. And so all three of us went up there and
Hmm.
picked an elephant each and
Yeah.
got our picture taken. And that was really sweet.
Yeah. So that was my little moment. So I wanted to stand next to the eldest elephant. She's a little bit older than me, Kitty. And so I went and stood next to her, and we probably had a minute, 60 to 90 seconds there. And I just looked at her, and there was a moment where she looked back at me, and we just had this little moment. And I had my hand on her trunk, and she just, like, slowly, her eyelids, her beautiful long eyelash just closed and opened. And I felt like we made a little connection. And Maybe that's all in my head. I don't know because I can't see, in this animal's head and heart. But I felt like she was like, "Hey, lady." And I'm like, "Hey, lady." And it was just a sweet little moment. And then that was kind of the end of our experience there.
Yeah.
And it was a nice way to end it. What was your favorite part?
My favorite part was touching the bottom of the elephant's foot because that's just something no I never even thought of. Years and years and years ago, I was in a job interview. I was already working for the company and I was interviewing for promotion. And they asked me, I sat down for the interview. It was two people interviewing me. They come in, they sit down, I sit down, they look at me, and one of them just says, "Tell me something I've never heard before." That was the first question of the interview. And I had this little factoid I'd read that day. And I looked at him and said, elephants are the only mammals that can't jump. And they just laughed and laughed and laughed, and it completely changed the whole nature of the interview. All this tension went away, and it was a good interview, and I got the promotion. But I always remembered that. And so when people would ask me, "Tell me something I never heard before. Tell me something I wouldn't know," I always tell them about the elephants that can't, it's the only mammal that can't jump. And touching the bottom,
That was really cool
yeah,
because you did that years and years ago,
yeah.
and now you're actually touching the feet of an
And
animal that
and
can't jump.
it lifted its foot up and put it on this little stool, and I'm able to it's the muscle and the fat and everything that's going on in there. It's just you wouldn't I just never in my life even contemplated it until here I am pressing on the bottom of this elephant's foot. And
Yeah.
it had padding. It
Yeah. They
wasn't like a
was
rock. It was
That was interesting, right? They were saying if you were to compare the shock absorbers on these elephants' feet are really incredible.
yeah.
So all kinds of neat little facts we learned. A sweet experience for all of us and for our family together. Madison smiled more and more as the day went along. Of course, granted, we were there in the morning. We all had to wake up a little bit. But she was like, that was a really cool experience. She said that was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a win for the
Yeah. But
McGurrs.
then we
Yeah.
added on a little bit of an addition onto the end of our experience.
Yes, we did. So we love going through Marble Falls. We've been to Marble Falls on a couple of occasions, but tends to be that Marble Falls, if we're going west, Marble Falls is in the path of us going west pretty much
Yeah,
anywhere.
it's a little town west of about 50 minutes to an hour west of where we live.
About 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not too far, but it's down a very windy road,
Hmm.
which really prevents us from going a lot more often because I just don't want to drive that road. It is one of the most famous roads, though, for motorcycle
Hmm.
riders to want to ride because especially this time of year when the bluebonnets are blooming. Now, we went around the 15th of the month or so, something like that.
Little before the blue bonnets came
Yeah,
out.
and the bluebonnets were not blooming because if the bluebonnets had been blooming, that would have been a lovely drive.
Yeah.
We're just starting to hit. It's
We're almost in peak blue
we're
bonnet
the
season.
last day of March today, and so they're just starting to peak. And I noticed them today as I was driving through Williamson County. But anyway, there's a little cafe in Marble Falls that's called the Bluebonnet Cafe,
Yeah.
and we love the Bluebonnet
It's world
Cafe.
famous.
It may, I don't know if it is or not. They say they are. I don't know if it's actually world famous, but I tell you what, they've got some pie.
They do have pie.
And that's probably what they're famous for. But it's a home style cooking diner,
Yeah.
like an old place where they'd have a blue lunch special,
The
so
blue
you
plate.
get a blue plate special,
Yeah.
sorry. And so they have things like burgers, chicken sandwich, chicken fried steak, chicken fried
Chicken fried
chicken,
everything.
roast beef, pot roast, grandma's
Yeah.
pot
Yeah.
roast, mama's
Chicken pot
meatloaf.
pie.
Yeah, they have all these really wonderful comfort foods, and then they have quite the selection of pie.
Yeah.
And so our family is clearly a chocolate loving family. They have three types of chocolate pie. They had a fudge brownie pie, a chocolate silk pie, and a chocolate meringue pie.
Oh, they did have a German chocolate, but we're
So
not eating that because that's got coconut
that's
in
got coconut. But those three types of pie. So the chocolate silk and the chocolate meringue are very similar. They have the same type of crust and the same type of chocolate filling,
it. Hmm.
but the silk has a whipped topping that is, half an inch thick.
Yeah.
and the meringue is what they're famous for.
That meringue is 4 inches thick.
Yeah, they have a really thick meringue, and but all good pies. We each got one, and we all shared and enjoyed our pie and our wonderful home cooking, and splurged a little bit. And we all shared together as well, and enjoyed our sweet lunch. And then we did a little thrifting at one of the thrift stores afterwards.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of nice to do when you go to a little small country
Yeah.
town. You know, it used to be a small town. Actually, Marble Falls has grown up quite a bit.
It really has. Anyhow, it was a really nice day out, and
We took the long way home and
yeah,
just kind of enjoyed the rest of the day in the nice weather. Yeah.
yeah, and so it was a great day trip.
Yeah, it really was. Well, that's it for our spring break day trip 2025.
Mm-hmm.
We just wanted to share that with y'all. And if you guys do anything special or fun for your spring break, please let us know. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Just look for the GDPD. Go places do GP. What is it?
You really ought to know this.
I do. GPDT? Go do things? Yeah, go places do things. GPDT podcast. Or go places do things. If you just type that in, you'll find us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll find the McGurrs.
that's right.
Yeah, and I would love to hear if in comments anybody else has day trips that they've done, especially if they're anywhere around Central Texas. We'd love to hear suggestions.
Yeah. Was that all we got?
That's all we have today.
All right. Well, thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Joey.